Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Fox.
And I'm Elaine Doran. Today, we're going to be talking about dreams. They have a very special way of whispering truths. Truths we don't always hear when we're awake.
Elaine, they guide us, they warn us, and quietly give a little nudge towards change. And yet, most of us were never taught how to listen or even believe they matter.
It's true. We really don't listen to our dreams. What if our dreams aren't random at all? This is kind of interesting, but what if maybe they're one of our wisest inner guides that's telling us something?
And that's why today we are privileged to welcome today's guest. Remember, she's been on our episode before, Jessica Lowenstein, who has helped people truly listen to their dreams.
Jessica brings a truthful approach to dream work and about the wisdom of our bodies.
And she's got over 30 years as a licensed psychotherapist, trauma specialist, a mindfulness teacher, and a lifelong dreamer. She's here to help us all understand the inner world, one dream at a time.
Jessica is not just a therapist. She is also an award-winning writer and poet. She leads psycho-spiritual workshops and retreats. And we said she's been on the show before.
And because today's episode explores one powerful question: what are your dreams trying to tell you? And if I get through the show with my laryngitis, I apologize, everybody. Let's get started.
Hey there, friends, it's Nancy and Elaine. They're the Deep Diving Divas, it's quite a name. They're diving deep into the things that matter most, from friendships to family and so much more. Join them each week for a splash of fun.
Jessica, welcome back to Deep Diving Divas. We are so happy you're here with us again today.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
We could go around and around, but we have so much to get to. So I say, let's dive in. We're talking about dreams, and dreams clearly guided your own life. So how did your relationship with dreaming begin? And how has it shaped you personally and your professional path?
Well, thank you for that question. And I love this topic, and I'm so excited to be here to share with you guys. We spend a third of our life asleep. It's pretty dramatic. And so much is happening during that time, so much repair and healing, but also a lot of dreaming. And it's like this blind spot that we don't really pay that much attention to. And, from a Jungian perspective, our unconscious is talking to us all the time, and dreams are one of its primary languages. So it's really a fascinating area that is very, I think, not unexplored, but not explored as much as it could be. For me, I had some early sensitivities, I would say, when I was young. It was clear from a very young age that I had some sort of psychic ability or dreaming ability. But for most of my life, I would say it was very passive, as it is for many of us, where we are dreaming and then we don't pay much attention, might have been an interesting dream, but it kind of we just move through life, and we're kind of passive. And I would say it wasn't until midlife, right around when I was turning 50, that I sort of deliberately turned towards my dreams in a more active way. I was going through, as you know from the first episode, I was going through a time of deep inquiry and deep healing myself. And dreams were a part of that. They were starting to come much more clearly, much more vividly. And so I made a decision to really turn towards, and that's key. It's like an invitation it's like we have a friend who's knocking on our door all the time or calling us, and we're not answering the door or we're not picking up the phone. And eventually the friend goes away. The same is true with our dreams. The more we turn towards them, the more we're rewarded with more. And that's what started to happen is I started to have a much more kind of intimate relationship with my dreams because I was turning towards them. And I really look at it like a practice, like an athlete or an artist or a musician. They might have an innate talent and an innate skill, but they have to practice. They have to do their work, and dreaming is the same way. It is a practice. So it sort of evolved with my sort of real decision to study and train and write my dreams down and really pay attention. And then somewhere in there, I got a dream that helped diagnose my breast cancer that was not caught in a mammogram. And then
you mentioned that, Jessica, when we
Wow.
had you on the first time, and that was astounding to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had other dreams like that, visitations from my deceased stepfather, who I was very close to, with very specific instructions and information that I was to deliver and to certain people and things. So, but the breast cancer dream was, probably the turning point for me in my really taking it seriously.
You know, Jessica, so many women tell us that their dreams seem to become more vivid and emotional or symbolic in their midlife. Why do dreams often become more meaningful for us?
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting kind of inquiry. And I have a few thoughts. One is that I think in midlife, we are kind of our roles and our external focus kind of starts to loosen, and we become more inward and more inwardly focused. I think we're trusting our inner authority a little bit more, right? We're not looking externally as much. I also think that we're often looking to heal or integrate lost or fragmented parts of ourself. And so there's just, I think, a maturity for deeper listening. We seem to be very ripe. And then there is the sort of scientific element to it, which is that, you know, with hormone changes and sleep changes in midlife, we often wake in the REM cycle, where when we're younger, we don't. And so we're waking up in our dreams more often. And so they're more present and vivid, you know, so I think the combination of these things make it so that women can sort of trust. You know, in ancient times, communities would come together to dream for guidance and prophecy and healing. And we've really, in modern times, we've lost that. And I think women are remembering this sort of dreaming role that we have. Women tend to dream more vividly and more symbolically and more in a feminine way than men, of course. And when we go into our dreams together, when we talk about our dreams, I think it really deepens their meaning. And all of this is just sort of conducive to women in midlife.
Interesting. Okay, well, but we also hear, I don't dream. I never, ever remember my dreams. So with that, what's the best place to start for someone who feels disconnected and, you know, not really attached to their dream life?
Yeah, well, we all dream. And it's really a matter of paying attention and inviting them. I think it's really a matter of making it more active, like I said, instead of passive. So what I recommend to people is to keep a dream journal near their bed. You know, my husband will get up in the middle of the night and see me with my headlamp on, writing down my dreams. So having a journal, setting an intention, like when you go to bed at night, to say, I will dream and I will remember my dreams. It has to be, we have to bring a curiosity to it. You know, it's not just going to automatically happen. You know, as I said earlier, we need to sort of train our minds, and it is trainable, but we have to ask. It's like putting a welcome mat out and saying, come, you know, come. And, so that's what I would say is it's really a matter of just kind of getting used to that part of ourself and, you know, welcoming.
Well, it's interesting because there's another part to the question, but you kind of answered it. Do we have influence over our dreams? I mean, are your dreams completely out of your control, You kind of get set up in your mind before you go to sleep to control it?
I think that's a great question. You know, I think it develops with skill and time, where people can go into a dream with a very specific intention and ask, you know, I would like guidance on this. Or, you know, I know of people who have done that, and I myself have done that, but I think it doesn't just happen automatically. You know, we have to develop a certain amount of skill to be able to do that. Also, there's something called dream reentry, where we can, if we're still in that in between phase when we're waking up, we can re-enter our dream and sort of try to get more information, or shift it a little bit, or, you know, that's more like lucid dreaming and kind of being, again, that all that comes with skill. But the short answer is yes. I think it's very trainable if we have that interest and intention.
I mean, do you have to like set your alarm to wake up so you can do this, or you make yourself wake up?
No, it just happens. You know, again, in midlife, I often am awakening in the middle of a dream, and I usually know there's a way you can tell if it's an important dream. For me, it has a neutral quality when it's important. There's no emotional content. And I'll just wake up and go, okay, this one's, I know I have to record it. And believe me, I often don't want to, because when I get up to record a dream, I then am awake. You know,
is there an easy, approachable way for beginners like me, and maybe Nancy, for you too, for a lot of our listeners out there, to start working with their dreams? Because, if this is possible, I mean, could you walk us through a short example or a demo of what we could all be doing?
Yes, I could, Elaine. Well, first of all, I'll say I do have a process for working with dreams, and it comes from one of my dream mentors, Robert Moss, and he's developed a framework called the Lightning Dream Round, which is meant to be fun and easy and exploratory, not analysis. The most important part of it is it keeps the dreamer as the sole authority, as opposed to someone outside of, So I know that you've been working with a recurring dream, or had one for many, many years. Would you like to share it? Just sort of, summarize it for us, and then I can share my process.
Yes. Okay. Well, we've lived in this home for almost 43 years. But when we moved from a smaller home, a much smaller home in Woodland Hills, California. And actually it was a home that I had bought first. And then my husband and we got married, and Richard moved in, and then we lived there for a few years, and then we moved here. And I think I'm trying to remember when it started, but it was about, I would say probably maybe 10 years after we moved in. I would have this dream. I'd dream. It was so clear that Richard surprised me. And he sold his house, and he bought the other house again. He went back, and he thought this would be he just said, this is where, this would be a good idea. We should move there. This was going to be whatever. I go, what? But the house, it was still a small little house, but all of a sudden it had huge acres of backyard that continued to just go and go and go, with a pool and all these kinds of things. But the rest of the house was still a small little bungalow. Well, I had almost the exact same dream. I could tell you probably at least 7 or 8 times, over the years. Somehow it has not come back again in probably the last 4 or 5 years. But there was a time when I was just dreaming. I wake up with Richard and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So the first thing I ask people is, can you please title the dream?
Home Again.
Home Again.
That just came out. I don't even know.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. And then the next question I ask people is, what feelings were present for you in the dream, or when you wake up from the dream?
Mad.
Because
we were going back to a smaller house.
Okay. Any other feelings? Just mad?
It was mad, probably because I thought it was Richard's idea, and he didn't let me know that that's what we were doing. I've kind of done a little bit of maybe kind of on my own, connecting what might have been a kind of a hurt too. And if it gives it away what it is, in that home, that was where my husband's son had, he didn't die in the house, but we lived in that house at the time he was in a car accident. And it was right after we got married. And we stayed in the house for another year, but I really wanted, it was important for us to leave. It was a small house. And even though we had joint custody, he was there a lot. So I started thinking, does this have something? Richard does not talk about it. It's very hard for him. He doesn't talk about it a lot. But I started thinking, why does he want to go back there? Why does he think we should be there?
Wow.
Because when we bought this house and we got such an amazing, amazing deal on the house, God, I'm getting the chills. I never said this out loud. I kept saying, this is a gift from Carrie. This was Richard's son. He wants us to live in a bigger house. He wants us to have a beautiful home and live in a different part of the city. And I kept saying, Carrie gave us this home.
Wow.
And I forgot that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing so honestly and vulnerably about it. And those things matter when we're exploring our dreams. I often say to my own little dream pod that it's better than therapy because, you know, I get so much out of our dreams. So a reoccurring dream like that is trying to get your attention for something. When we have recurring dreams, it's usually like, okay, please pay attention. There's something important here. So the next question I would normally ask, that you've already answered it, is there anything in real life that, you know, resembles this dream? And of course, it's all real, right? Everything you just shared. And I also think it's important or significant that you bought the house first on your own. Yeah. Yeah.
The first house, the little house.
That's what I'm talking about. The one that you go back to.
Right.
So that is significant to me too. So the next question I ask usually is, what would you like to know? What is sort of plaguing you, or what are you most curious about?
You know, is Carrie asking us to come back to that house, his son? You know, does he feel like that's where we should end up being? Does Richard feel like there was something that he left there that, you know, wasn't finished? Or does it mean that we, because someone did say to me, who was it there? She said, Elaine, I don't think you feel worthy of the home you have now. Like you should go back to the home that, you know, was smaller and you know, this is not a pretentious home, but it's in a much nicer part of the city and, you know, it's bigger and whatever. And I thought, that's so strange. I don't feel like that at all. But then sometimes I wonder, is that something like, you know,
but that doesn't resonate for you.
Doesn't really know.
Yeah. That's important, to trust your own knowing.
Yes.
So do you have any curiosity about this backyard?
You know, it's very strange because I've always wanted a pool and a big backyard. There was a big backyard. It was a small house, but a big backyard with, you know, fruit trees and stuff. But it goes on and there's no fence. There's no end to it. And I keep wondering, why didn't this yard look this big when we had it? You know, did we tear down a house that was behind it? You know, what was there? So it's just this expanse of like eternity or something. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, that's a very significant part of the dream. So then how I work with the dream is to say, if it were my dream, here's how I might look at it based on everything you've shared, right? So if it's my dream, I'm very curious about this forest that's expanding in the backyard, because it's the only part of the dream that's expanding. It's expansive. Everything else is still as it was. And the information you gave me, I am curious about, and your husband is the one that's making this decision. So if it's my dream, I probably want to have a dialogue with my husband, even though it might be hard, about Carrie, about, is there anything that needs to be revisited, in terms of closure for him around that. I also, if it's my dream, I'm feeling very secure that my foundation is intact, right? This early house represents your earlier self. So that's very like solid and intact, but it's this yard, it's this forest. The forest often represents the mystery of, you know, so if it's my dream, I'm very curious about what part of me wants to expand beyond what my foundation has provided. What is this forest asking of me? It feels a little bit like I'm wanting more space to explore the mystery. And, you know, and then the final piece would be what might you do? What action could you take to honor the dream? Because that's part of this relationship that we're developing with our dream life. And I always ask people to take some sort of action to honor the dream. So even though you're not having it anymore, this dream, what action could you maybe take now that would feel right to you?
So ladies, we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
And so what I think that's a perfect place, Elaine, you've got homework to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a direction now, right?
Yeah.
Really a heavy answer. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Nancy. Yes, we'll leave it at that. And
I'm happy to chat with you more about it another time if you want, but these dreams are fascinating.
In a couple of minutes, Jessica, what can our listeners know? What's the best takeaway for today?
Yeah, I think the best takeaway is if you're interested in learning more about your dreams, put out that welcome mat. Set that intention before you go to bed. Put your journal nearby and see if you can start to develop a relationship with your dreaming life. So one thing I'd like to add that I think is really important is I do think it requires a certain amount of bravery to ask for our dreams to come. One of my mentors said, if you're really brave, when you go to bed, you'll ask, show me what I need to see. To your dream producers, show me what I need to see. And that takes bravery because a lot of times we're having dreams that are difficult or, they could border on nightmares or like I talked about earlier, we're healing, we're reclaiming parts of ourselves that have been fragmented off because of trauma or any other reason. So it does require a certain amount of bravery to say, come visit me and show me what I need to see.
Love that.
Do you have a guidebook or anything that's been put out or something?
I will be. I'm working on a book that will be coming out called, what's it called? Listening to the Night Body.
Ooh, I love that.
Oh my!
But it's not out yet. But and several books will be coming out. But you can reach me if you want more information or you're interested in doing dream work. I have workshops and retreats, and you can find me at jessicalowenstein.com. That's jessicalowenstein.com.
Jessica, what a gift. You're amazing. And it was so insightful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Nancy, what do you think about this conversation we just had?
Incredible. I used to love dream therapy. I did some of my own years ago, and I've sort of forgotten and gotten away from it. So I'm getting out that pencil, which is mirror pen, and paper, and I'm going to really focus and welcome the dreams.
I think more than ever at this time in our lives, it's so important that we really do. She mentioned, Jessica, about paying attention to our inner bodies and our inner souls. And it's so many civilizations, so many ancient civilizations, dreaming was, a really important skill and a guide to so many people. And we're not paying attention. We have this gift that we should be able to use. So I'm going to bring out the welcome mat and spend more time in listening to what's inside of me.
Love it. So remember, as always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, listen to our podcasts, or watch us on YouTube. We're everywhere at Deep Diving Divas. Sweet dreams, everybody.
That's what I was going to say. Have a good night's sleep. Don't let the bed bugs bite. That's what we say. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Bed bugs. We say, don't let the dog bed bite.
Bye.
Bye.